those shippers who are representing the, organization. How these two, the players, the shippers and LSPs to work together as a, like I would say that is a business partners. So can anybody in the panel to elaborate, how the going forward this two, because you cannot isolate only LSP and, separately, because we, now the going forward, we have to work together for, because there are a lot of challenges. Now, pharma industry is basically, in a very, the growth is flat and there is a lot of, issues on the pricing, the price control. So this lot of challenge in the supply chain. The cost optimization is very important. So what do you think about this, how this, both shippers and, LSPs, how work together and, what are the, main thing to take into consideration going forward? I need a real specific 2-3 answers for that.
Okay, so let me take this question on behalf of the panel. You have a very valid point, given that Indian industry is suffering, or I would say not suffering, but under challenge because of government price control, fixed dose combination ban, etc., etc. So my answer is that we never involved our logistics service providers or freight forwarders when we do our strategic calculations. How much inventory to keep, where to keep, what should be our logistics cost, etc. Going forward, we may have to involve. Right, that is one. And how do you optimize cost? I mean, every company would have some cost which are, avoidable, some cost which you need to have. Like cold chain compliance is something which you need to have. But there are some costs which are avoidable because of some historical reasons. You might be having those costs. You can also look at the GST network, post-GST network optimization. We have closed 7 depots in Sipla, right? And this is public knowledge, so I'm sharing with you. And we are looking whether we can reduce further, right? So by reducing the points, stocking points, maybe you can look at reducing the cost associated with it, right? So I mean, there is no single answer for, no textbook answer, I would say. But depending on which stage of evaluation your supply chain is, what are the cost structures in your supply chain, you can come out with various solutions. So maybe you can touch base with our panelists during lunch break or tea time. So before people become hypoglycemic, that is low blood sugar, I would like to, unless there are questions, I would like to end this. Okay, there is one.
Mr. Right? Chairman, one question.
Thank you. Thank
you. One step backward when we spoke about disruption. Is there any view from you panelists on supply chain, on the blockchain technology, which actually seems to be going in the direction when we go deep into it is going to be beneficial, but it is one of the things which we talk in terms of disruption.
Yeah.
So we were actually planning to discuss on this point also, but the time is limited. So we have this blockchain of big data that is there, that is used, that is going to be used in future in each and every aspect of the supply chain, right from the demand planning, where we have huge data and there are many trends and many correlations, if you use the statistical terms, which are very, very difficult to find by the human. Even though we were asking that Indians are intelligent, but still there are many trends which are very difficult to find by human brain. So machine intelligence and big data actually is going to help us there. There are many other aspects like inventory optimization. So it will help us to optimize the inventory and reduce the cost. Demand sensing is another field there where it is like our GPS tracking, where you know that this is the path which is actually the crowded one, so take the car from other paths. So these type of technologies are going to help us in demand planning and logistics in future. Other than that, there are many many aspects of your visual inspection that can be automated by using artificial intelligence. And then there are like aspects of customer and supply relation, where like a lot of OTIP data, you can still analyze and find out which is the best supplier, and customer giving the alerts to the customer at every point in time. That's also very important, and there we can go long distance to satisfy the customer. So all those technologies are going to help, but still it is a long way to go. We have just started.
Yeah. So any other question, or then if no, then I think we close this panel discussion from them. Yeah, we have a question from the panelists to the audience.
Yeah, I have one question which especially to airlines and freight forward. There's one challenge that we face, so I thought they can possibly ask this question. If we are sending, let's say, some consignment in a passive which is validated for 5 days to a destination abroad, and if for any reason it goes beyond 5 days, then the 228-degree product is actually supposed to be taken out of the box and stored it in a, say, 228-degree container, 228-degree cold room. At the same time, while during transit, it cannot be stored in 228. It has to be in 15 to 25 to maintain 228 inside. But after those 5 days, it has to go into a 228. I'm not very sure whether this kind of a service is available from anybody. Because that's one challenge. In case something happens en route and it gets delayed, what to do? We have been told that you cannot put 2 temperatures on the same document. It has to be either this temperature or that temperature. They don't accept both the instructions.
So anyone from the airlines industry want to answer, or I mean, this is a challenge which most pharma companies face. Otherwise, we can have one-on-one discussion with you. Maybe you can answer during lunch on one-on-one. You want to answer? Okay. Because we are getting slightly delayed.
Okay, I can answer that fairly quickly. It's also a challenge on our side, because you're right. Legally as well, on the airway bill, you can only have one temperature range. It's also who is monitoring that time of telling us exactly when it needs to be put into a 228. For example, we've had issues where with 4 customers for special purposes, it's gone to destination, they've just gone at destination, move it into 228. It's actually got there earlier, so it's been moved into 228 and it's then frozen. So the question is who's monitoring that time? And it needs to be very specific, because there's not an exact time of, right, now move it. It becomes a little bit vague. And when you're talking, I was talking earlier about processes and standardization and stuff, and it becomes difficult to get into that product at a specific location to make sure they're aware that they moved it exactly the right time. It can be done, but as a fixed product, it is challenging. It is challenging.
Okay, so thank you. There is one. I think we should keep it during lunch. Okay, so thanks everyone. Thanks to my panelists and also to the audience for patiently listening to us for almost an hour. So over to you.
Thanks, Rajesh.
A huge round of applause for them, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, a detailed and significant session. Once again, let's put your hands together. I would now like to call upon Ms. Dipti Suchak, Director, Renaissance Infra Private Limited, to come over to the stage and felicitate our distinguished panelists. Surendra Deodhar, VP Materials Management, Reliance Life Sciences. Mr. Rajesh Rao, former head, SCM and Cure Pharma. Mr. Balaji S, Senior Director, Industrial and Logistics Services, Advisory and Transactions, CBRE. Mr. Rajesh Padnekar, Head Logistics and Distribution, Shipla. Thank you, sir. Thank you to all the other panelists. Thank you, ma'am, Ms. Dipti Suchak.